find myself having to look up. Kind of intimidating, you know.
Yeah.
But they vary, and as I said, they've been doing genetic engineering for so long; they're so good at it.
Yeah.
And they've even now they've been teaching us how to do it.
Now, what would you consider the nature of these beings that you're with?
Well, the ones I've run into at least two different groups, James. I've run into ones that are totally human in the sense that they are material. I mean, they are flesh and bone, and they're just as human as we are in that sense. Mm-hmm. And then there are others that I have encountered that I guess you would refer to them as transcendentals. Our ancestors would have called them, you know, angelic.
Like archangels and things like that?
Actually, our ancestors deified them, you know, said they were gods.
Exactly.
Well, some of them are, you know, advanced. There is a hierarchy out there, and the highest levels of that hierarchy are predominantly spiritual. Mm-hmm. But, you know, they run the gamut. Some of them out there are not that much further along than we are. Mm-hmm. And some of them are maybe a few centuries ahead of us, and some of them, for God's sake, are a million years ahead of us. But the ones that seem to be running the program, and McMonigal and the guys on their remote viewing excursions have run into some that literally are pure angelic. They call them transcendentals.
Great.
They have
before when I met them back in the early 90s, I think it was, I showed them photographs and actually drawings of some of these beings, and they go, you know, we know they're out there, but they said we haven't seen them. Some of them, you know, they said we haven't seen these beings, and then they gave me a talk about remote viewing and how it works, and they weren't really getting up into those higher dimensions, and now it seems they are actually getting up and experiencing these higher dimensional beings.
Well, you know, you're familiar with who Robert Monroe was, aren't you?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Well, he was one of my heroes. I thought Bob Monroe was probably one of the more advanced human beings on the planet. And in his excursions out there, he ran into all kinds of levels out there, and he encountered what we would call the transcendentals, the spiritual beings. And the higher up you go in the hierarchy, the more spiritual they are. Mm-hmm. And they're all around, and there is a purpose, there is a plan, and there is a program. And the human race at the moment, the human species, is that program. Mm-hmm. And we've got a bunch of good friends in high places, and no pun intended, but they're trying to get us through this awkward period, you know, where we're just stubborn. We're stupid and stubborn, and we learn slowly. And God, that's one of the problems I've had in this incarnation, James. I have a problem with patience.
Yeah.
I've developed my compassion. I'm already, you know, I've made some progress in compassion, but I have a real problem with patience.
Mm-hmm. I know that one. It's sad when you have all this information and you're just trying to help people wake up and smell the coffee, basically, enlighten them, and you're coming from a very high space and your heart's wide open and everything, and you just get slammed over and over, and people, you know, demanding to stay in their own program and their own ignorance.
Listen, my friend, you hit the nail right on the head. That's one of the big problems with people like you and I. Is that we've seen enough and we've learned enough, and we literally have opened our minds. And, well, I know you've had personal experiences with them as well. Mm-hmm. And when you've seen the other side, as it were, when you've seen what humans can be, and you can see what intelligent species have done out there, it alienates you almost, and you feel like a stranger in a strange land. Uh-huh. You know, and I've been alienated now, James, for the last damn 20 years.
Yeah.
And I travel and speak, and I've been kind of gratified that I've been received rather well. You know, I got standing ovations in Madrid and Barcelona and Mexico City. But you know, among many of the researchers in the community, as it were, you know, they look upon me as you know, a little bit of flake.
Yeah.
The old coot's lost it. He's gone over the edge.
Uh-huh.
And I don't argue with him anymore. I used to try.
Yeah.
But when you've seen it firsthand, as I know you have, and I've had,
Uh-huh.
you become kind of separate. You don't fit into the program that much anymore.
Exactly.
And it used to bother me, James. It used to bother me a lot, but it doesn't bother me that much anymore.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I just say, well, have a nice day and have fun with that and walk away.
There you go. That's about all you can do.
And every once in a while, I just rip on one of them just for I just got to let it out. You know, I did the other day. I had this guy, this UFO guy, call, you know, send me this stuff, and accused me of everything in the book. Unbelievable. And, you know, said I was making all this money on these radio shows and all these other things. And I said, well, I'm paying for these shows. You know, there's no advertising on these shows. This is coming out of my pocket, you know. And he had all these accusations, and he goes, everything you're seeing up there is satellites, and I can prove it, and you know, and starts attacking my character and calling me some pretty derogatory names, and you know, told me, I guess I didn't say this, but he just said, you're nothing but shit, you know. And so finally I said, well, the only shit here is your shit for brains. And so, and I just laid into him, and I said, what are you going to do with all the triple PhD Boeing engineers, the Lockheed engineers, the Skunk Work engineers, the Air Force base commanders that have been here, that have testified, gone on the record, gone on coast to coast, and the thousands of witnesses and the long history? How are you going to discount all of this just so that you can be right? And the guy just kept going. It was unbelievable. And
James, it's going to be tragic when it all comes out eventually.
Yeah, and you can't reason with these guys. They have no ability to reason, or they don't use logic. They don't even use science when you try to explain it scientifically to them. They want you to give them proof, physical proof of non-physical events. And by their own science, they know there's at least 11 dimensions out there that they know of that are non-physical, but they want physical proof. And I said, well, it's up to you to rise to the occasion. You know, it's not my job to educate you, especially with that kind of an attitude. You know, it's amazing what they come up with. But the thing is, we do have evidence here. We have photographs of not just the ships, and some of the ships are physical. We have thousands of hours of footage of these ships doing everything imaginable, landing, morphing from 1 to 3, back to 1 again, doors opening on the mountain, objects coming out, filming them with night vision, third-generation night vision, and just crazy stuff happening up here. Just, you know, and you add all that together, and it's undeniable, but these guys still come at it. And a lot of that's on the website, but it gets even weirder here because now we're photographing masters appearing here. We're having, like, Mother Mary appear here in front of, like, 30 people, and a Japanese monk actually photographing the event, getting it on film, you know, pictures of Kuan Yin appearing here, and these 12-foot-tall feline beings that are higher dimensional beings also appearing here, and we're getting it on film as well. So how do you bring this information to the UFO community? I don't know if it can be done.
Well, I don't think it can be done, James. I think for many of them, the learning process is a slow process, and it's going to take them a generation or two, maybe even more, before they're ready for it. You know what I think it is? There is a subliminal kind of subconscious awareness in them that if they accept this and they open their minds to see what's really going on, that their old worldview, their old paradigm is going to collapse around their knees. And they're frightened, James. Oh, yeah. Many of them are motivated by a sense of fear. They know that if they open their hearts and minds to the reality of it, that it's going to literally disintegrate their old paradigm. And they're frightened of that. They really don't have they don't want to have to go through the process that you and I have gone through, where we've lost the old paradigm, and we said to a point, well, good riddance, and we built a new worldview for ourselves.
Uh-huh.
And it's not just a worldview. And God, James, it's a universal view.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's cosmic and it's expansion, yeah. But many of them are frightened. They know subconsciously that if they, for one moment, accept some of this, that their world will never be the same, and they don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So I've reached a point where I'm kind of patient and kind of sad, you know.
Yeah.
I pity them, really. And
yeah, I do too. You know, I think about it. You know what scares me the most is the old paradigm. I mean, that's what they should be really afraid of. It's unsustainable. It can't continue. It's so destructive that it's taking away everybody's freedom and you know, creating total poverty on this planet and taking away their abundance, everything else. That's where this old paradigm is taking them. And you would think eventually that they would be all for anything else, you know, other than where this is going. But it looks like they're going to ride the beast to the very end until they decide that, you know, the beast isn't really where they need to be plugging their energies to or serving. They need to start, you know, working more towards living in harmony with each other and the planet.
Well, their old worldview is collapsing, James, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it. Mm-hmm. You know, this transition that we're undergoing as a race, it's inevitable. You cannot hold it back. It will happen. And psychologically and psychically, there are going to be people who are going to be not only shocked, but devastated because they've never opened their minds up and made allowances for the reality of what they're going to have to confront. And I feel sorry for them. I really do. I used to get angry, and when I was younger, and you know, I used to, well, hell, I'm an old command sergeant major, James. I was not famous for my patience and tolerance, but I've developed a bit of a compassion for them because their old worldview is falling apart around them, and they see it taking place, and they're scared to death.
Yeah. Maybe you should get yourself a nice metal cane and just whack them one time right between the eyes and just say, now that I've got your attention, I have something to tell you. Well,
that was an old Hindu tradition, you know, where the holy man would poke the student right between the eyes. Yeah. He would reach up and tap them, you know, a pretty strong jolt. Tapped them right there. I think the pineal gland is right underneath.
Yeah, exactly.
He'd reach out and poke them right there and say, "Wake up!" You know, one of the greatest Hindu holy men that, you know, I wish he were still with us was Yogananda.
Oh yeah, he was awesome.
With his self-realization fellowship, he tried, you know, to get people to realize the self, who they really were, the soul, the spirit, the immortal being within. And I've been poking around here for a while and trying to get a few of my friends to do that. I sat down and had dinner with a few of them the other evening, and I said, you know, I'm not too happy with this human being that I'm living inside of. Because this human being that I'm living inside of, you know, is getting old and falling apart. And I'm not too happy about that. I find it inconvenient and troublesome. And they looked at me like I'd had too much to drink. And I said, no, I just have long ago realized that the real me is not what you see sitting here in front of you. The real me is inside. And if you were to see the real me, I wouldn't look very much like what you think you see right now. And they thought about it, and some of them said, well, you know, that's quite an accomplishment when you can recognize who you really are and realize that you're walking around in a human body that really isn't going to be around that much longer.
Yeah,
and then you find out that you talk about, as I said, being alienated. A stranger in a strange land, James.
Yeah, I always tell people basically, you know, we're all running around in these multicolored, multicultural Earth suits. And we all came from the